When I was a kid, my social network was outside. It's Saturday. I'm Acorn. Welcome to Gen X and Millennial Memes, November Rewind. Best of November 2025. I know I used a best of video for last Sunday, and now today too, but I just want to let you guys know why. I've been sick for over a week now, and I just have not felt up to recording this week. But I'm starting to get over this, and I fully plan on being back next week with brand new shows. But for now, I hope all of my regulars and new viewers enjoy today's highlights reel. Thanks for watching the videos, guys. Your support is what keeps this channel rolling. Without further delay, here's today's show. A kid today will tell you this is a pizza thingy, and 80s kids will tell you this is furniture for Barbie and G.I. Joe. If you know what these are, you're old as dirt. What those were was quite a bit of fun, actually. Either used in the toy that they were actually made for, or just putting them on the ground and smacking them with a hammer. Before cars crumpled like soda cans, they rolled heavy, loud, and proud. Never judge a book by its cover. Except that one. Seriously, put it down. He really was my buddy until I saw Child's Play. Not so much after that, huh? I wonder if their sales and stock prices dropped after that movie come out. Not just to him, but pretty much all dolls or whatever category these would fall under. The amount of money I would pay to time travel and eat at Arby's when it was like this would be borderline offensive. I'd say that something that most people today don't realize is that the shape of their sign is supposed to be a cowboy hat. Something else I noticed the last time that I went to an Arby's is that the roast beef is no longer shaved. Used to be it was really super thin slices and they'd pile it up to make the sandwich. The last time I ate one, the whole sandwich was like 3 big slices just folded over top of each other. I think the shaved roast beef was much better. This is probably what happened when they traveled to 2026.
Okay. Show me.
Getting older ain't the problem. Watching the world get dumber is. That is true in many ways. The original charcuterie board. They're not wrong. I didn't have influencers growing up. I had uncles who gave bad advice for free. You know you're old when you randomly start remembering specific water fixtures. That is true, because I do remember this exact faucet. When your kid wants to be both a hot dog and Michael Myers. That was how Oscar Myers was born. I was today years old when I found out Michael Keaton was the trolley operator on Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. Well, that's something I never knew. Wife, so how is the new patio coming along? Me, it's okay. Just promise you won't get mad. I think that looks pretty good myself. Good conversation starter. Couldn't you just imagine 10 or 15 years from now, somebody's going to be power washing the patio and they find Mario under it? Robert Stack action figure. Accessories include trench coat, flashlight, and the sound of your childhood nightmares. Well, they have to include a miniature smoke machine too, because it just wouldn't be the same without it. This is absolutely true, guys. The things that we ate back then, just because they're the same brand name today, they are not what we ate when we were growing up. Just take a look at some of these comparisons. It's funny how we grew up without helmets, seatbelts, or sunscreen. Yet, here we are. That is very true. Also, if you really dig in and do some real research on sunscreen, it's actually really bad for you. 1970, 2025. When your song comes on and you forgot the words. Yeah, that's most of them these days since my TBI. At least for good portions of the song sometimes. If you've ever used one of these towel loops in the 1970s, you're probably immune to everything now. Well, we were at least back then. If you know what this is, you've complained about gas prices more than once this week. When I saw this post, I was looking at some of the comments and I came across this one. They still have one in the chem department at my university. They had to put up a sign that it's for washing hands. I thought that was pretty funny. When someone says they've never seen planes, trains, and automobiles, they need to make these as strong as these. Yeah, I fully agree, but then they wouldn't sell as many cables. If I had spoken to my parents the way kids do nowadays, I wouldn't be here to post this. That is a fact check true. If that had never stopped, we wouldn't have a lot of the problems we have today. You know you're old if you ever told someone, "Call me back after 9. My minutes are free." Yeah, I definitely remember this. I didn't even get a cell phone until after 9/11, and I mainly got it then because I was driving that morning when I was hearing about it on the radio, and I couldn't call anybody to tell them to turn on the news until I got to my destination and I used my calling card on a payphone. Looking back, why were we all so chill about babies growing out of cabbage? Back some years ago, I can't remember the details, but I think I was reading about this, how the backstory of the Cabbage Patch Kids was somehow connected to the orphan trains. I can't remember exactly how, though. Maybe some of you guys have heard about this before. If you have, drop it down in the comments. Started with the Easy Bake Oven, now I'm burning entire meals in my air fryer like a true adult. It's not too far from the truth. An air fryer definitely does remind me of an Easy Bake Oven.
Again?
My cat!
Are you sure? Positive?
Bye, kitty!
Uh-oh.
I'd say a good number of you guys know exactly what this is. Fun fact, Freddy Krueger only has 7 minutes of screen time in the original Nightmare on Elm Street. Despite the limited time on screen, the role became a cultural phenomenon. Sure seemed like he had a lot more time than that, though. How is the difference between 2025 and 1980 the same as 1980 and 1935? I don't know, but it just ain't right. They say if you recognize this picture, you're either close to 40 or over 40. Is this true? 'Cause I've never seen it. Yeah, how many of you guys remember the Mac Tonight commercials? Didn't McDonald's eventually get sued over those commercials? Seems like I remember something about that. What's your favorite Michael Keaton movie? I'd probably have to say either Beetlejuice or Batman. What would you guys choose? Here's something I came across this week that I thought was pretty interesting about Back to the Future 1. It's the scene where 1955 Doc is setting up the cables at the clock tower. But in the background behind him, we see an out-of-focus person riding by on a bike. He has a black coat, a tan hat, and brown pants. Now, if we skip and go to the Back to the Future 2, you have 1985 Doc. He shows up and sees 1955 Doc setting up, right? And he just happens to be wearing the exact same clothes and riding a bicycle. So the real question is, did they intentionally create a role for this actor who they had playing this background character in Back to the Future 1 just so they could then have it be Doc Brown later in Back to the Future 2? Looking back now, we would think this is obviously the case. However, Back to the Future 1 was not supposed to be a major blockbuster movie. As a matter of fact, it was pushed down the list and rejected multiple times over multiple different reasons and by different people. And even when they did finally start to make the movie, it had a very limited budget. There was a lot of casting issues. The script was apparently being rewritten and changed over and over again. Many of you probably even know that Michael J. Fox wasn't even the original Marty. There was another actor that was playing the role during the first 6 weeks of filming, but for whatever reason, it didn't work out. So, they actually had to start all over again when Michael J. Fox joined the cast and took on the role of Marty. Study hall in the 1980s. Michael J. Fox adopted Einstein's son after the beloved Back to the Future dog passed away, a touching tribute to the bond he shared with his furry co-star. This is the only true cranberry sauce. I will not be taking questions at this time. I think the 1965 through 70 Mustangs had the best body style. As a matter of fact, my favorite car of all time is actually either a 67 or a 68 Mustang Fastback. Homemade costumes in the 80s were legit. Couldn't you just imagine if a kid showed up to school dressed like that today? They'd probably be expelled before they could even make it in the door. This was the peak auto climate control. Everything after this was garbage. Yes, I fully agree. The only thing that they need besides this, if it's not already, all of the controls and the indicators are all backlit, so you could actually see them at night without having to turn on the interior light. Every grandparent's house starter pack in the 80s came with this exact carpet, couch, and lamp. Yeah, you just need that big wooden coffee table and some candy dishes. The craziest part from Home Alone was that Kevin got all those groceries for $19. Yeah, these days, for $19, it might not even pay the taxes. And if you bought $19 worth of groceries, it would definitely fit in one bag. There is a generation who won't get this, and that's sad. Yeah, that is pretty sad, really. With that said, I don't know if you guys have heard, but apparently there is a new Tremors movie in the works. The company that made the original Tremors movie now has the rights back to it, and there's also the possibility that Kevin Bacon is going to return. If you had him, what would you name him? I think I'd call him Bruce, because depending on the conversation, you could say it's Bruce Wayne or Bruce Banner. Anyone who beat this level should get a permanent tax break. I'd be all for that. Every grandparent's house had this exact blanket. It was scratchy, warm, and somehow smelled like tater tots, Vicks, and the 6 o'clock news. That's actually a pretty good description. There are no warnings saying ziplining into a pool on your Jeep winch could result in injury or death, so it must be safe. I don't see anything wrong with this. Just don't fall out of the tree, and make sure you let go while you're over the pool and don't just slam into the front of the Jeep. The Domino's DeLorean. Pizza delivered so fast, you got it yesterday.
Everybody on? Good. Great. Grand. Wonderful. No yelling on the bus.
Superman had the worst disguise. Hold my Gatorade. A hidden image of a screaming face can be seen on the knife-wielding hand on the Halloween poster, 1978. I feel like that's something that no one would ever really see until it's pointed out. Now you can't unsee it. Time to break out the snow socks. I certainly hope not. I'm glad that the summer heat is over, and I'm glad that most of the bugs has went away, except for the ladybugs that's currently swarming here, but I still don't want any snow. All snow is more headaches and more work. Remember when your parents would order the Bigfoot pizza from Pizza Hut? I do remember a Bigfoot pizza, and I know it was a long rectangular pizza. However, for some reason, it coming from Pizza Hut just doesn't sound right. I don't know why, but I was thinking it came from Little Caesars. The drunk uncle getting ready to ruin Thanksgiving. Hey, you gotta have a hobby. When's the last time you guys used one of these? Last time that I used one was about 8 years ago when I changed the timing chain and all of the related parts on my mom's 2005 CRV. The leading cause of injury in old men is them thinking they are still young men. If we're being honest, it's not completely wrong. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles in 1987. Who can remember the name of the guy that's inside the robot suit? The 50s and 60s, the 80s, the 20s. How to find Gen X by year: 1985, 2025, 2045. This scene is so sad. Vader made a nice meal for everyone, and Han Solo just starts shooting like a jerk. I guess that's one perspective. I know that all of you clearly remember Publishers Clearinghouse, right? How many of us send in those sweepstakes almost every time we got them, just because there's always that chance that maybe Ed McMahon would show up with that big check at your front door, right? We all remember seeing the TV commercials, as well as seeing the reaction videos of when they show up at somebody's house and they open the door and there's Ed McMahon with a big check and a bunch of balloons telling you that you won $1 million. There's only one problem, guys. Today, they claim Ed McMahon never worked at Publishers Clearinghouse, nor did he make any commercials for Publishers Clearinghouse. This is the topic that this woman here is talking about. However, she's also found some fragments that apparently got missed. Check out this clip.
Alright, first you need to know that I am willing to die on this hill. So if you're going to come in the comments and disagree with me, you better bring it. If you were a kid in the 80s and 90s, your parents got these envelopes in the mail from the Publishers Clearinghouse sweepstakes. And you could fill it out and send it in for a chance to win like $1 million. And if you won that $1 million, a guy named Ed McMahon would show up on your porch with a big ass check, some balloons, and a camera crew and knock on your door and film your reaction. We all remember this, right? Wrong. It never happened. Ed McMahon never worked for, made commercials for, or was affiliated with the PCH in any way possible. And the internet is backing this up. You can't find footage of Ed McMahon delivering checks on the internet. It's been wiped from existence. They're saying that we're all wrong. It's something called the Mandela effect, where this large group of people remember something incorrectly and nobody can explain why. His face was on the envelopes! There's even TV shows that referenced this happening.
What?
That was
I'm one of the winners of the Publishers Clearinghouse? Ed McMahon wants to see me right away?
So what, is the entire internet like lying to us? Did they get together with PCH and be like, hey, let's with the whole world and tell them that Ed McMahon never did this? Or did he really never do it and there was a glitch in the Matrix and we were living in a parallel universe? Like, I could not sleep last night. My brain hurts. And I need somebody smarter than me to figure this out. One more time for the people who don't listen. Ed McMahon worked for Publishers Clearinghouse. He delivered big checks to people's front doorsteps, and it has been wiped from the internet. I don't need Google. I don't need YouTube. I lived it. I know what happened. So stop sending me links to old commercials that he did for American Family Prizes. The dude had money problems. He worked a lot of places. I'm not saying he did not work for that company. You showing me that he worked one place does not prove that he did not work another. So take your Google links and shove them up. Now I know what you're thinking. Why would the government or anyone else go through the trouble of wiping Ed McMahon videos off of the internet? I think 100% that this is a social experiment. It's a psychological experiment. People do these all the time. They've done way more f***ed up ones than this. Just ask the guys from 3 Identical Strangers. If you have not seen that, you need to. It's amazing. So in this situation, I do think that they want to see how far they can push us. What will the American public believe if you take away what they knew? And at what point will they stop trusting their own memory and just go with the facts that are presented to them? Because let's be real, that would be a real interesting study. That would be something that would come real handy for lots of different agencies. You can't gaslight me. You can't. I'm ungaslightable.
Bucks, the Publishers Clearinghouse sweepstakes, and they conducted a poll, and they found out the number one reason people don't enter that thing is they say $1 million is not worth the nightmare of meeting Ed McMahon.
I'm trying to win the Publishers Clearinghouse sweepstakes. Have to get a big check from Ed McMahon.
No, Ed McMahon, our good friend, could not be here. You are the $1 million winner.
Nice try. Didn't work. Rest in peace, Ed McMahon.
Don't talk about loyalty if you don't know who this kid is. Yep, that is very true. Top things taught to Gen X that are now completely useless. Typing a double space at the end of a sentence. Roman numerals. How to crab walk. Writing a check. How to write in cursive. That skill is certainly not useless. As a matter of fact, might come in pretty handy. Bowling scores on paper. Playing a recorder. Lotus 1, 2, 3. Keeping your wrist bent forward and your arms and hands lifted as you type, because carpal tunnel rocked. The food pyramid. Well, the ones from recent years are certainly garbage. Juggling in gym class. Now this is something I don't remember. Did any of you guys learn to juggle while you were in gym? Square dancing. And number 1, that Pluto was a planet. Well, no matter what they say about Pluto, one thing will never change. Pluto will always be a great dog. When I was a teenager, I could make tie-dyed shirts, develop film in a darkroom, take photos with a pinhole camera, program a VCR, repair cassette tapes with a pencil, get records to stop skipping with a penny, and now I'm like, I don't get how to use this credit card tap thing. Well, there is a good reason for that though. Most of the time the stupid things never work. And anymore, half the time, the chip readers don't even work right without having to do it 2 or 3 times. Popular vintage Pyrex patterns. I did not know that they actually had names. However, there's a few patterns that I remember that they don't seem to be showing here.
Here she goes. Get that. Oh, sorry, Linda. She doesn't want to discuss it. She threw it back in the bag. She stomped off. She struck the producer. She hit a cameraman. We'll be back after this.
Yeah, you can definitely tell that Bob wasn't really happy with this. But he also had to keep the show going because the cameras were rolling. Replace or add to an 80s song title with the word toilet. How about toilet under pressure? What do you guys think the best one would be? And here's one that you can have for your very own for the low, low price of only $8,690. That's inflation for you. This was definitely one of the biggest scams pulled by a major company. Did anybody ever win more than free food? There might have been a few of the smaller prizes maybe that other people won, but all the big stuff, the guy that was supposed to be the one in control of the winning pieces ended up selling them to people and replacing them with the common pieces. cures for every sickness I had as a kid. Fact check true. I still keep ginger ale on hand when your stomach is feeling off or whatever. The thing is, you have to make sure that the ginger ale you buy actually has real ginger oil in it, because if it doesn't, it's worthless. Canada Dry is one of the few brands that you'll see in the store that still has real ginger oil in it. Zevia is another brand that has it as well. Have you guys heard about the apparent connection between Back to the Future and the Goonies? That for whatever reason, they both apparently took place on the same day? I never heard about it before until about a week ago or so, but I think this video clip here explains it pretty well.
There's a crazy theory that this day in time was the same day as the original Back to the Future. The present day was October 26, 1985. We know for a fact this was Goonies happened on a Saturday. Mouth said, what is this, a nuclear Saturday at the beginning?
Right.
And they're not in school, right? We do know it's October. Brand is doing sit-ups, and there's a calendar that says October. And there's a newspaper in this scene that they find with the Fratellis, and it says October 24th, 1985, with the Fratellis being at large. It's got their photos. So we're like assuming that this is 2 days later on October 26th, Saturday. This magical date and time happened. Back to the Future and Goonies, same day.
Wow.
I propose Gen X Island, where we can live out the rest of our days with our forgotten peers, watching movies on the VCR, snacking on Jiffy Pop and Tang, Saturday morning cartoons, and tearing up our mouths with Captain Crunch, riding bikes with no helmets, and listening to records. How many of you knew that Ernest was the first person to ride Splash Mountain? Disney apparently did like a 30-minute show about this, but here is a clip from that show showing Ernest and the official grand opening of Splash Mountain.
36 years ago, they sent our boy Ernest on Splash Mountain with no safety restraints.
But they want to make sure that everything is perfectly set and the conditions are just right. Here he goes. Ernest is taking off. You probably couldn't hear his parting words over the shouts of the crowd, but it sounded something like, "This is a small step for humankind, but a big old leapfrog for Ernest."
On August 19, 1989, a special half-hour program aired featuring none other than Ernest P. Worrell, becoming the very first person to ride Disneyland's newest attraction at the time, Splash Mountain.
Well, how does it feel to be the first person to actually ride this awesome mountain?
Piece of cake. You show me the mountain, I'll ride it.
The special followed Ernest as he went through a series of exercises to prepare himself for the ride.
This is the ultimate test. If I can take this, I can take anything Splash Mountain can dish up.
Fast forward to today, Splash Mountain is no longer part of the park. In May 2023, the iconic ride officially closed to make way for its reimagining as Tiana's Bayou Adventure, marking a new chapter in Disneyland history. Were you lucky enough to ride the original Splash Mountain? Let me know in the comments.
Gosh, Vern, the air's awful thin up here. There's not a lot of oxygen.
At this moment, we ask that squeamish or sensitive adults turn their eyes from the screen.
How many of y'all are burn a CD old? I'm record songs played on the radio onto a cassette tape and a boombox old. Yep, for sure. What's the worst car to replace the DeLorean if they remade Back to the Future? There's only one answer for this, really, and that's a Cybertruck. Would you guys agree? Let me know in the comments. Name this part. Wrong answers only. That's a spark plug wire tester. What you do is you plug this into the spark plug wire, and then you call your buddy over there, and you tell him, look, I've got to crank the car over. I want you to hold this with both hands, make sure the wire don't come off, and you got to look really closely and see if you can see if there's a spark or not. Because if there's no spark, then this is a bad plug wire. Legal disclaimer. Do not do this. This video is for entertainment purposes only. The real ones know. At this point, I'm willing to pay more money for appliances with zero smart features and just physical knobs, buttons, and controls for everything. Yeah, if you can find the old mechanical style washers and dryer sets, if they're in decent shape, they're worth having repaired. You just need the right repair shop to do it. Something else. A lot of these repair shops are actually rescuing a lot of the old mechanical washers and dryers, or even some of the earlier electronic models that still didn't have the mess of computers in them. So if you was looking for something like that, you might check with some of those kind of shops. They may already have a set that they've repaired. Something else you can do is if you find one, you can repair it yourself. I have a washer-dryer stack unit from the early 90s that was in the house when we moved here, and I replaced the motor on the washer about 9 or 10 years ago, and about 5 or 6 years ago, I completely disassembled it, thoroughly cleaned everything, replaced all of the wear and consumable parts, also had to replace the heating element and the bearing in the dryer, and some other odds and ends. But at the end of it, I have a good washer and dryer set, and they work perfectly. There's still quite a few parts that can be found for washers, dryers, refrigerators, and more from the 80s and even the early 90s. Sometimes you can find parts for the older models too, but it can be hit or miss. But a lot of them are still available. This lady is back again, and this time she's talking about Richard Simmons. Now, I never liked Richard Simmons, but I have to agree with her.
Wait until she finds out Richard Simmons never wore a headband. Stop. What do you think they did? Went through the whole internet and scrubbed every photo of Richard Simmons ever wearing a headband? That's crazy. I don't even know what to say anymore. I don't know what to say. Okay, but what if we Google people who have dressed up like Richard Simmons for Halloween? What if we try to buy a Richard Simmons costume now? What? Why? Why are they rewriting our history? You know that scene in Back to the Future where Marty McFly's like hand is disappearing? He's looking at a picture because like history's changing at that moment? Is that what's happening? They're trying to make us look crazy, and it's gonna work. They're gonna put us all in mental institutions one day. Like on Reasons Why, it's gonna be like, won't shut up about Ed McMahon and Richard Simmons.
Let me know if you guys remember if Richard Simmons did or did not almost always wear a headband. Drop it in the comments. I finally cleaned out my metal kitchen drawer. Probably not too far off. I'll end today's show with this. My ambition was to be one of the people who made a difference in this world. My hope is to leave the world a little better for having been there. I sincerely appreciate every one of you who submits content to be considered here on the channel. If you would like to submit content, you can send it to akornzstash@gmail.com. Just put Gen X in the subject line. This link can also be found down below in the video description. That's it for today's show, but I'll see you guys back here on tomorrow's show. Until then, I thank you all for watching. You guys take care and stay safe this weekend. This is Akorn, over and out.